The WWE Network is without question one of the most wonderful things in wrestling, particularly from a fan's perspective. The sheer value for money is just ridiculous. For $9.99 a month, you're getting access to the most comprehensive tape library in wrestling history, and it's growing all the damn time, with things like the Bret Hart Tom McGee Holy Grail, something that in another time would just be lost to history. Well, these things are popping up constantly, making that $9.99 a month feel like an absolute steal. Through the magic of the network, we can relive glorious territory years, we can relive classic WWE pay-per-views at the click of a button, we can experience the oddities of latter-day WCW, we can enjoy all the extra content, the 24s, the 365s, and all that other good stuff. Or, if we do enough digging, we can see loads and loads of deeply weird and ill-advised bollocks. I'm Andy for What Culture Wrestling, and here are 10 crazy things you'll find on WWE Network if you search deep enough. Number 10. WWE Being Lazy. Hilarious. WCW gifted us the best worst match of all time at Uncensored 96. I'm talking about the Doomsday Cage, baby, in which Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage took on 8 heels all at once in a monstrosity of 2 factions incorporating Ric Flair and a jobbing actor called the Final Solution. That was his actual ring name. Oh yeah, and they were inside 3 cages, with frying pans the most effective weapon. Basically, this thing was the room of pro wrestling. It was the Friday, gotta get down on Friday of the ring. But on the network, WWE didn't paste in a picture of the Final Solution, but one of the actor who played him in his role as Bane from Batman and Robin. On this match graphic, there's a picture of bloody Bane. Now, this was presumably because they just got lazy and decided they couldn't bring themselves to watch the damn match long enough to take a screen grab. Still, come on. Number 9. WWE Being Arrogant. Also hilarious. Zack Sabre Jr. participated in the awesome Cruiserweight Classic of 2016, which apparently compelled WWE to throw his name all over the 2017 Royal Rumble promotional material, despite him having not signed for the company. Sabre Jr. elected to not join WWE full-time alongside Kota Ibushi, who made a similar decision. And when he was speaking to the New Japan Pro Wrestling website about it, Zack said the following: "It would be like asking a musician, why don't you sign with the biggest record label? I'm just concerned with being the best pro wrestler I can be. It really was just a personal choice. This is my path." Now, there's no way of determining quite how this botch, as seen on the TakeOver San Antonio pre-show, went down. But it would be very WWE of them to assume they just bagged their man by virtue of being WWE. Instead, the staunchly liberal performer with a distinctive style probably just didn't fancy being told how to work matches by Michael Hayes. Number 8. Something even worse than WCW in 2000. This one takes one hell of a search, because last year's network update saw the glorious hidden gem section hidden away in the system's guts. It's still there, but for some reason they really want you to hunt for it. Now this belongs in the bowels, because it is a hurricane of poop. Glorious poop, but poop nonetheless. I am, of course, talking about the 1989 pilot for the AWA Tag Team Challenge series. It was a desperate attempt at stealing a WWF-adjacent audience in the AWA's dying days, and oh boy, is it something. An aging Vern Gagne introduces us to this hip new brand of rock and roll and chicks and fun and Coca-Cola, and he's wearing a sweater and khakis. Then a man who looks like Todd Pettingill look like Atsushi Anita speaks from behind a control center before Tommy Jammer enters flanked by green-screened fans, and I mean, bloody hell, just look at it! The funnily named Destruction Crew cut a promo in front of a green screen, which they then attack with sledgehammers as if they had in fact been demolishing a real building, but it's quite clearly an image. And then, presumably because WWE thought that the principles that held up the old AWA were so boring and passé, some girls engage in boxing wearing lingerie. What a load of pipe. Number 7. the work of a convicted sexual felon. In 1986, Buck Zumhofe was found guilty of 4th-degree sexual misconduct with a minor. 27 years later, he was charged with 12 felony counts of sexual misconduct for abusing his wife and daughter, beginning, and this is the worst part of all, when his daughter was 15 years old. Calling this grim doesn't even do it justice, but it's simply stunning to discover that one can simply search his name on the network and watch much of his body of work, as if he was only ever a territorial journeyman and not a real-life monster. Now, here in the UK, when you see a Top of the Pops rerun, it doesn't feature Jimmy Savile or Gary Glitter, because the lives of men who ruined others is not to be endorsed. WWE, meanwhile, didn't even bother to whitewash this genuinely evil man's timestamps from their videos. Number 6, Over the Edge 99. This one is beyond strange. Over the Edge 99 is, of course, the show on which Owen's Hart tragic death occurred. Knowing this, you have to ask, for what purpose is the show even streamable? Watching it at the time, it became a grotesque and harrowing experience as fans awaited updates on the situation. So, in 2020, how could anyone possibly be entertained by any of that? How could the crowd be sent home happy? And who the hell wants to watch it now? Having the event even feature on the WWE Network is sociopathic. It's an unfathomable, indefensible decision, and if you want to understand the pain of Owen's passing, there are a lot less ghoulish ways to go about it. Number 5, the crass exploitation of WWE legends. Legends House was an optimistic pitch. WWE got all the good old boys together in a Big Brother type deal, hoping that their charismatic and confrontational personalities would converge to create some fun, but unfortunately, the reality was exponentially sadder. In the very first episode, the producers engineered a bonding scenario. Basically, they just got everyone drunk. But Roddy Piper, who quit his vices a few years earlier, didn't join the session. Instead, he left the house to wander the streets and, in a somewhat distressing turn, he howled at the moon, with an ominous synthesizer playing in the background. The show was originally pitched on wacky scenarios like, hey, look at this golf cart, isn't that fun? But it degenerated into grim theatre, and Piper would later tell Sam Roberts that he hated the experience. He said, "I'm not sure I like myself," and Jesus. Now, Piper wasn't exactly a man without flaw, we'll get to that later, but this was deeply exploitative. Number 4, weird TNA stuff. WWE and Impact Wrestling don't have a working relationship, but the former TNA has allowed WWE to use its footage on a number of occasions. A recent episode of Table for Free with Sting, AJ Styles, and Jeff Jarrett showed a number of clips to complement the stories, including customary glimpses of the X Division's awesomeness and Sting hanging it up as the Joker. He speaks very fondly of his time in the role, but it doesn't do much to present TNA or Impact as this great producer of future talent, which really is what it was. Searching for TNA itself also reminds you of a bizarre period in WWE history in which the .com page briefly covered news and events outside of the company in a weird way to kind of subsume online wrestling journalism. Basically, they just didn't want big bad Dave Meltzer getting over. Regrettably, though, there's no snarky editorializing to be found, which may have proved a bit amusing. Instead, the information was presented succinctly and pointlessly. And you've got to ask yourself, well, what was the point of this? Are WWE not just alerting fans to the presence of a competitor? Actually, when you really put your noggin into it, it's kind of funny that WWE once felt more threatened by the existence of ProWrestling.net than a corporation-backed promotion with household name talent. Number 3, Vince McMahon casually dropping an N-bomb. Vince McMahon is a strange paradox of a man. His admiration of Martin Luther King Jr. seems earnest enough, but then this is the man who also dropped an N-bomb in front of Booker T on pay-per-view. And remember, this is the same Booker T that endured very real racism as part of an infamous storyline in 2003. So, yeah, this is just bewildering. It went down at Survivor Series 2005. Vince caught up with John Cena backstage. Now, keep in mind that this was after Cena had pretty much dropped the rapping elements from his promo style, but Vince McMahon still asked him, "Hey, what's good in the hood?" And then, seconds later, he said, "Keep it up, my..." You know, the word. And then the camera pans to an annoyed, mystified Booker T. Years later, WWE finally responded to the uproar this caused, speaking to TMZ in its customarily quite funny way. And I quote, "This was an outlandish and satirical skit involving fictional characters similar to that of many scripted television shows and movies." Translation: oh, for God's sake, everybody else does it. Idiots. Number 2, Roddy Piper cutting an ill-advised promo. It's crazy, absolutely crazy that this hasn't been scrubbed. It's crazy that Roddy Piper didn't scrub the grease paint before cutting the promo. Racism was, unfortunately, a tried and tested heel tactic in that era, but Piper was supposed to be a babyface. Let's take a quick look at WWE Network's history of just deleting things. Music rights, scrub 'em, pal. Network collections, scrub 'em. They're only for nerds anyway. Purposeless racism. Who cares, pal? It was the 80s. To find this, you don't even have to search that hard. In just a few clicks at WrestleMania 6, you can see Roddy Piper standing sideways so that he can reveal his bloody black face as part of a bit. He then proceeds to cut a promo at the expense of opponent Bad News Brown. Piper describes Brown's face, and the description he uses is remarkably similar to a t-shirt that WWE somehow produced in 2019, as he talks of, and I quote, "big bug eyes, a schnozola, and dilating nostrils." If this is bad but inconclusive, just wait till they upload Primetime Wrestling from 1990. On the March 24th, 1990 episode, Piper is even worse. He mimics a stereotypical voice and claims to be fighting on behalf of the Black Power movement. And look, man, I get that these things went down in a totally different era, but Christ, it's 2020. Just delete them. And at number 1, WCW Thunder in the year 2000. You know, earlier on when I spoke about the AWA Team Challenge series and I said it was even worse than WCW in the year 2000? Well, this is accurate if we're talking about Nitro, but Thunder, on the other hand, was the worst, most incomprehensible, most outrageously lazy milk job of a rights fee that any promotion has ever had the balls to produce. It is horrendously, hysterically bad. Deep into the year 2000, WCW, to which Thunder began as an inconvenience, dropped the pretense of creating a good TV show entirely. And you just need to look at the state of some of the cards bearing the name. We had Shane Douglas headlining well past his prime. We had Scott Steiner fighting 3 cruiserweights at once just because. Gene Okerlund working matches. Handicap matches that were more prevalent than singles matches, and straight singles matches themselves, with the exception, not the standard. And not just because of Vince Russo's wrestling is boring bro mentality. On the subject of Russo, on the 3rd of May 2000, he presented arguably his greatest desecration of wrestling on one of its most hallowed grounds, the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis, Tennessee. Every single match was fought under New York rules, which, until they forgot what the stipulation was halfway through the show, saw matches held under no rules with no referees. The idea, perhaps, was to promote a series of matches so violent that they would endanger the officials. So, what did we get? We had the Wall helpfully putting this brutal premise over by gently landing leg first through a table, thus securing Lex Luger a win in their tables match on a show on which every match was to be a New York rules match. In another match, and this is real, Kevin Nash declared Mike Awesome the winner of a Ric Flair versus Billy Kidman match via disqualification in a contest with no rules. Wrestling! So that's our list, but what do you guys think, and what are some of your favourite network oddities? Let us know down in the comment section below, and once you've done that, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. Then, you can follow us on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE, and myself at Andy H. Murray if you want to tell me how wrong I am. Bye!